We've come to Kendal Castle today. It's one of the lesser known castles, but it does have an important part of British history. Now I'll give you a few clues. It used to belong to the Parr family, and the Parr family had a daughter called Catherine, and Catherine married a man called Henry. We know him as Henry VIII, and Catherine Parr was Henry VIII's sixth wife. And if you remember the poem, married, beheaded, died, married, beheaded, survived. Catherine Parr managed to survive being married to Henry VIII. It was an interesting time because the Parr family rose to prominence during the Wars of the Roses. It was during the Wars of the Roses that the Parrs became very prominent at court, so prominent in fact that they stopped living at Kendal and went to live in the lands in the south of England. The Parr family got the wealth from the textile and the cloth trade, and the barony of Kendal passed into their family through marriage in the early part of the 14th century. You can see from this angle how wide the moat is and how steep it is to the curtain wall. It must have been a heck of a job because it was all dug by hand. I don't think Kendal Castle actually saw any military action, but there is a story that an army of Scots came down and laid waste to Kendal, but whether that's true or not I don't know. But it must have been an imposing sight to see this castle sat on this mound dominating the countryside. You can see here where the drawbridge would have been. It's been filled in now so people can get in, and the drawbridge would have been flanked by two towers. In total in the curtain wall there are actually 6 towers. There's one partly remaining and the remains of another one. It's thought that the castle was built by a man called Gilbert Fitz-Rhinefred, and he was the Baron of Kendal, and it was built as an administration centre for the lands that he held in this area. Now unfortunately Gilbert picked the wrong side in the Baron's revolt against King John, and it was imprisoned, and Kendal Castle was given to the king as part of Gilbert's ransom. But in 1241 the castle was given back to Gilbert's son, William de Lancaster. What's left? A lot of the castle walls do remain, a lot of the buildings. The castle that's here was built around 1200 to replace a motte and bailey that was here, probably from the time of the Norman conquest. And if you look round, you can see it was protected by a dry moat. So if you're attacking the castle, you'd have to come up the hill from down there, which is very steep, and you'd have to attack over the moat and up there. If you look at the bottom of this tower wall, there's actually an entrance. I'm going to go and have a look if I can keep my feet, because it's quite steep going up here, but we'll have a look and we'll see what it is. Oh, watch the nettles. Here we are. Try again. And I think this is where they used to clean out the toilets. So at the top of here there'd have probably been a room that drops straight down to here. So there's probably a man employed to clean it out. What a job, cleaning everybody's muck. Ugh. And there you can see the enclosed garderobe. That's the base where the man would have gone in and cleaned it out, and the lord and his lady would have gone at the top. And there we go, an indoor toilet. I'm standing on the top of the moat now, looking up at the walls. You can see where they've fallen down, how thick they are. A lot of stone went into building them. Fantastic structures, and to have lasted this long. You can see here where the drawbridge would have been. It's been filled in now so people can get in, and the drawbridge would have been flanked by 2 towers. In total in the curtain wall there are actually 6 towers. There's one partly remaining, and the remains of another one. We're going in through what would have probably once been the main gates. You can see this big chunk of stone here. Must have fallen down off one of the walls. It's a massive piece. Catherine Parr was the daughter of Thomas Parr of Kendal, and although people did once think she was born here, it's more likely she was born in the south of England, and it's very probable that she never actually came to Kendal, because at the time when Catherine was alive, the castle was in a state of decay. There is the local school here named after Catherine Parr, Queen Catherine's School. At the time when Henry VIII first started to take notice of Catherine Parr, she'd already been widowed twice, and she was said to be in love with a man called Thomas Seymour, who was the king's brother-in-law. But I suppose once Henry VIII decided on something, you didn't argue with him. Now Bramble and I are going to take you into the dungeon. Are you brave enough to come in with us? So you can see it's very small, very dark. I've got a torch on my phone, so hopefully I might be able to see something. The only light was through this window, if you could call it a window. You can see the water dripping off the walls. What a horrible place this would have been. Proper dungeon. And that was the way out. Once you were in, you may never get out. Scary thought. Incredible engineering. Look at the size of that window. Must be about 8 feet deep, easily. So it wasn't built for falling down. Stonework. We're walking towards one of the corner towers that would have been built into the curtain wall. So we're going to go in. Let's have a look. It's gone dark. Wow. Pitch black virtually. A strange place. So we're looking at what would have been the living quarters for the Baron of Kendal. Upstairs would have been where he lived, and down here underneath would have been the storage cellars where they would have kept all the food and all the drink. You can see it's fantastic structures. Domed roofs. That would have been a fireplace with a chimney. And look, there you go, I don't know if you can see up there. It goes all the way up to the living quarters. This is where the servants would have been making food, probably the kitchens as well. Cold storage for the meats. This is the remains of one of the towers. You can see how big the windows would have been to let in as much light as possible. Now that's looking back down into the cellars. I'm going to go up here through this gap, looking down into the dungeon, and this would have been one of the watchtowers with the arrow slits to shoot at anybody silly enough to attack this place. I don't actually think anybody did. But you can see as well how the arrow slits were made to flank the curtain wall. There you go. Not a very high roof. Maybe this was where the guards came. You can see the water seeping through. A strange place. I'm standing at the top now of the northwest tower, looking out towards Kendal, and it's a fantastic view. You see all over. You can see there would have been another floor to this tower, but it's been demolished. Now, through this entrance here, this would have been to the garderobe or the toilet, like we saw at the base of the other wall earlier on. Come on. Come on, Bramble. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Billy, come. Billy, come. Billy, come. Good boy. If you look at the top of the tower, which I can point to it, just above my finger, you can see the remains of the garderobe. Now the garderobe was the toilet for the guardhouse, and what would happen? You would go into the little room and do what needed to be done, and it would drop. Let's see, drop all the way down from onto the top of the moat, and I think they actually paid people to come and take away the mess. So not the nicest job in the world, but that was the early toilets. This might be a better angle for looking at it. Oh, sounds like a wren in the brambles. Now if you remember on the other side where I went up to the hole underneath the wall, they have a posh garderobe, because instead of it just being open at the top, it's enclosed all the way down. So when the Lord and his ladies went to the toilet, nobody could see what they were doing. Yes, very smart, very posh. And there is the old fireplace where the guards would have warmed themselves. It does get quite windy up here, very breezy and cold in winter, so I'm sure they would have been glad of that fireplace. Now, this is the well that would have supplied the castle, but it's been long since filled in. I think Bramble's going on, look, see if she can have a drink. No, no water in there today, Bramble. I wonder how far down it must have gone. Quite a few hundred feet to reach water level. Now Bramble is looking over the edge of what was the curtain wall. Now I just lean over, you can see how steep it was. There's the moat at the bottom, some watering after all the rain we've had. When you look up how high the hill is, you can really get a feeling, get a perspective how high it is. This is the view from the other side of the castle. You can see it was a fantastic place to build. Totally dominates the surrounding landscape, which is what it was intended to do, suppress the locals. It seems strange that Henry was related to each of his wives, and Catherine Parr was no exception. He was distantly related to her. In 1543, when they got married, it was noted that Kendal Castle was in a state of decay and disrepair. And in 1571, the castle was passed back into the hands of the crown. And in 1578, a court official called Edwin Bradel came to do an appraisal of the value of Kendal Castle. And it was found that it was worth the princely sum of £25 in its current state. They did manage to sell it eventually, but it was sold for less than £100, which nowadays isn't much, but I suppose then it was a lot of money. In 1715 the castle was valued again, and this time it was valued at £230. Wow.